Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Seaweed Brain. We are recording on a very busy day and a busy week for the Seaweed Brain community, but we had to make sure to schedule in our finale of the Chalice of the Gods.
Yeah, Carter almost wasn't here for this episode. This was almost the only episode of Seaweed Brain ever to not have Carter, because Carter just got off a plane from Los Angeles to New York City, much like the demigods once did.
Yeah. Well, not from Los Angeles, but
from California.
From California. We'll take it. Yes. Yeah. Apologies in advance if the audio is a little bit weird for this, because we are currently sharing a mic in Erica's apartment.
But all for exciting reasons. So stick around. We're going to finish the Chalice of the Gods today. All right. We have two special guests here because I have been so disorganized in planning this book, but it's been so nice to have people jump in and express that they want to talk about this book. Everybody loves this book so much, and we're going to finish the last 4 chapters today, joined by a semi-returning, semi-new guest, Lochlyn, who hosts We Accidentally Vaporized Our podcast.
Hi, yeah, it's funny because then we actually did. So if you want to listen through the first 2 3/4 books, it was a good time. And then we both had college and life. But yeah, it's still out there.
I admire your ability to relinquish your unpaid hobby. That is obviously something I have not learned how to do yet.
Oh, it makes me sad every day, though. I keep trying to figure out some new podcasts I can do. So
that's why you're here right now, though, to reinvigorate the pod love. Yes.
Exactly.
And our second brand new guest today is Sherry, all the way from the Newest Olympian. Hi, Sherry.
Hi. I'm so excited. I've been dying to talk about this book, but because Mike has only finished the first 5 books, I can't talk about it with him, and no one else I know has read these books. At least not Chalice.
Tell us, for anyone who maybe isn't a deep, who may have not recognized you immediately by your voice, explain what you do in the Percy Jackson realm.
Yeah, so I edit the Newest Olympian, which is another Percy Jackson podcast hosted by Mike Schubert. It follows his journey reading the books for the first time as an adult because he didn't read them as a kid. And I cold emailed Mike asking for an internship, and then he kept me on as his editor. And he happened to be starting the Percy Jackson podcast right when I started. So it's been a good time.
Yay! That crisp, clear, clean audio coming from Sherry right now. Can we just enjoy that? Wow. It's beautiful. We're in my living room and I have basically no furniture. So if you're ever why is Erica's audio always so echoey? It's because I have basically no furniture.
And I'm stuffed in a tiny New York apartment with too much furniture.
Them is dead, right? Isn't that?
Yeah.
Aren't we back into maximalism now?
Yeah. Furniture-wise?
Yeah.
I think that's right.
Yeah. That's what I've seen. Likes. That's what I've seen on TikTok. Yeah. Anyway, we have one thematic question for the both of you in regards to the Chalice of the Gods. And that is, what would the Chalice of Lochlyn and the Chalice of Sherry dispense?
Cats.
Cats are a liquid.
To drink?
Drinkable cats? Is it drinkable cats or is
I'm sorry.
Cuddleable cats? Because we're not going to judge you either way.
Oh, no, it's just a bunch. Do you ever see that meme where someone walks in holding what looks like a bouquet of roses, but it's just a bunch of little kittens in there? That's what it is. Yeah. It's just full of
almost like a cornucopia.
Yes, it's a cornucopia of kittens.
Oh, beautiful.
I have thought about this. I think it would dispense the perfect mocktail because I'm quite allergic to alcohol.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
girl,
it makes fun drinks a little difficult. So it'd be whiskey based with a little fruitiness and then something sparkling because I love a good carbonated drink. But it would have all the mature flavors of a cocktail but not have alcohol in it. So I don't turn red all over.
Sherry, you are speaking my language right now. That's beautiful, Sherry. Thank you. That being out of the way, dare we dive in to chapter 32, Grover Eats My Leftovers. Now, I have notably, suddenly, for the first time, enjoyed Grover. For the first time I like really enjoy Grover's presence and I never used to. And I don't know if that's because I'm reading it more in Arian's voice or like why that was.
He's definitely matured.
Yes. Mature, I think that there is, in the original iteration of the books, kind of leaning on the classic trio trope a little bit harder in the most classical orientation, where the third person is there for comedic relief, is the least competent, is kind of there because you need there to be two boys for young male audiences to tune in. I think we all know what phenomenon is being described here, right?
Yes.
And I think that what we are unlocking here is a more useful, thoughtful version of this, in which what Grover is providing is still sometimes comic relief, but like a clearly defined third set of competencies that has a little bit more to do with relational and emotional intelligences, right? Would we characterize that?
I think he's funnier, is what I was going to say.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah, I definitely feel a big difference between the two versions of Grover.
He's definitely less scared and more confident in himself.
100%, yes. I think that the chapter where he is meeting, I can't remember the person's name, Soho Photography?
Blanche.
Right. Iconic streetcar name. Yes. When the chapter where he's with her, I feel like we got a proto version of that in the Titan's Curse, right? Where he's like following the hunters around.
Yes.
And tripping over himself and being like, they're so cool.
That's such a good example of how different these two portrayals of Grover
exactly.
are. Yeah.
Whereas now he's like, oh, she's really cool. I respect her a lot. But then they respect each other. And he's not being, like really
thirsty,
weird about it. Yeah.
Because I would say like the way that he was interested in the Hunters of Artemis was not slay queening, was not like...
It was bad.
Yeah.
I don't think he fully understood them. I don't think he fully respected them. They clearly did not want to have him around. He was not making himself a fun, useful presence in their lives.
Yeah.
Value added.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But now, wow. Okay. This makes a lot of sense. Thank you all for validating my feelings that Grover is better now.
We bring this up because the chapter is titled Grover Eats My Leftovers. We left off, as you may or may not remember, having successfully delivered the Chalice back to Ganymede during brunch at Olympus. And now we are basically just winding down, wrapping things up for the last few chapters. At this point, we are taking the elevator down. We have another dig at Cher. For some reason...
We should have, what we should have asked Rick is, how do you feel about Mamma Mia?
How do you feel about trying to say that Percy Jackson is homophobic? Is what we should have asked him. Yeah, after these vicious, unfounded attacks against Cher that we have, I think, successfully contested, we make our way down and out to meet up with Grover with the titular leftovers.
Yeah.
Percy got a demi bag.
Cute, like they're dogs. I love that.
They are, though. The gods treat them like their little pets.
Yes.
Yeah. I also liked that Grover clarified for us all, for me, that there aren't llamas in Crete, and that's why the joke is funny. I feel like Rick got down the elevator and was like, wait, I don't think that the kids are going to understand the joke. Let me explain it. And he was right for that because I didn't understand the joke.
No.
The specific joke is that he asks if they were vicuña or guanacos, which are, of course, other species that are very closely related to the llama. We should have looked this up ahead of time and really prepared ourselves on the biology. There's this phenomenon where I believe one of the, like a vicuña is like a non-domesticated version of the llama. Like llamas exclusively exist as domestic animals, and they've so genetically differentiated themselves that they're like, it's like a domestic dog and a wolf,
If anyone else was trying to like pull this out of their butt right now, I would be like, stop. But Carter worked at the zoo for several years and has a secretly very vast amount of knowledge about animal species. So it's okay. We can let Carter riff on this.
I would like to support Carter here because I listened to a podcast about animals and evolution, and I'm pretty sure she talked about this at one point. So I support Carter here.
Yes. I literally... If we were professional podcasters, there'd be a fact checker right now being like, actually, this is like this is the relationship between all the different related species. But instead, exercise is left to the reader. Grover does a little bit of fact checking for us here about how llamas are not from Crete, and we get a little broader debrief with Grover, and specifically start to unpack the most surprising part of this whole exchange, which is Athena deciding to help Percy and not maybe kill him, which you might remember her alluding to, wanting to do, attempting to do, voting for in the past.
Yeah, she really did vote. We get an enchiladas callback too, which was cute. I just noticed that for the first time right now.
I forgot about that because they're vegetarian.
Yeah, and the enchiladas was a big thing.
Yeah,
in the first series. Yeah,
huge thing.
But now I think it's funny.
You weren't on board. Like, you've been able to retcon the enchiladas gag being funny.
You didn't like the enchiladas?
No, that was like my main anti-Grover point. I was like, the enchiladas
like
enchiladas. Not funny. Stop making enchiladas your entire personality.
But it's a fun word to say. Like,
what about the enchiladas food fight at the Hoover Dam?
Wait, those were burritos.
Were those? You're right. Those were burritos.
You said a llama and a vicuña is different.
It's the same thing here.
Do not confuse a burrito and an enchilada, especially when they're your whole personality.
And especially because in this case, I think it was he was being Zooey Deschanel before Zooey Deschanel. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
With the enchilada gag, like, that's what was happening. He was being like, I don't eat tacos, I don't eat burritos, because I'm a vegetarian and I eat enchiladas.
I followed you. Maybe some of our listeners will follow you as well on that.
Like, it's because it was a fun word to say and because it was non-normative that he was so into talking about enchiladas. But now we've had a break. I'm ready. It's a good callback.
I agree. Is this where Grover says that he's like really glad that he didn't lose Percy?
Yes. Oh my God. The emotion. I love when male identifying people are like emotional with each other and express how much they care about each other. Like, we need more of this. So Grover like almost crying. Yeah. Saying that he was so scared to lose Percy, and then Percy be like, oh my gosh, me too, man. Like, it's like wiping tears from his eyes. Like, it's like, we need more of this. So this just made me so happy.
I agree.
Men need friends. And
men need friends that they can be emotional with.
As Marcelo said on Weekend Update.
Yes, I was just about to say.
Sherry, you say it. You explain it.
He was like, men are depressed because they have no support system, because men do not support other men and they do not let each other be emotional. Great SNL bit. Everyone should go watch it.
It's honestly barely a bit.
That's true, yeah.
It's like him doing stand-up and basically just stating truth
it's just
about
facts.
The world. Like, there's barely any like jokes. There's barely any like little bit characters. Yeah. He does like one or two bit characters, but mostly it's 4 minutes of him just like saying like
cultural critique.
Men don't have friends. It's kind of funny.
You guys,
but they're all depressed.
I reposted that after it happened, like to kind of subtweet somebody I know who doesn't have friends, and that takes an emotional toll on their life. And they literally saw it and they received the subtweet, which is terrible because now I'm going to think that like subtweeting via posting SNL clips is like an effective way to convince men to think about themselves when that should not be a habit that I'm forming. Do you know what I mean?
A lot of arcs on SNL have been like men being able to reach men and critique them, and then eventually getting a little bit too famous and losing the original thread of that. Marcelo, we're rooting for you.
Oh, we love.
Stay on track, girl.
We love. Short king. Yes, very happy to see Grover expressing his love for Percy.
He's also, I think, trying to set a context here. There are a lot of callbacks in the book. He explicitly is like, these were the other hard experiences we've had. This is up there with them, which is, I think, partially for us to be like, this was important. We've been on a journey together.
Yeah.
Even though this book is a little bit shorter and we have maybe like lost our sense of scale in the course of these books, Grover's like reasserting, here's a sense of scale. This was a big deal. I felt the stakes, but also reminding us of discrete past events that were also like, not just like scary, but I think had similar levels of like emotional valence, where like it wasn't just like this was a difficult monster, but there was some sort of innate reason based on where Percy was in his life and the kind of emotional challenge represented by the monster that we thought that this risk was similarly high.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he says, this is the most scared I've ever been in my life besides when I was in the Sea of Monsters Cyclops cave alone. But Grover is going to deliver Annabeth's hat down to school. I love that Percy's like not going to keep it until the next time he sees her, that like we know that this is so important that somebody has to travel to downtown in order to deliver it to her.
He would also lose it knowing Percy.
I do love that he corrects the size of it, like back to Annabeth's size. Like that's just such a cute thing.
That was like the number one thing I wanted to talk about in this set of chapters.
It's so cute.
Percy changing the size of the cap, readjusting it from his size to Annabeth's size before giving it to Grover to return to her. That is love. That is truly like
It is.
It's the little things, the little actions, the little ways he shows he cares.
Who do you think has a bigger head? Probably Annabeth, right?
For that brain.
Her big brain.
Canonically, it's Percy.
Is it? Okay. I was trying to find the passage to be like, which way did they say which way he adjusted?
He
No,
adjusted
it just
it
says
to
he
larger
adjusted.
size, I think. In an earlier chapter.
I think it depends on how her hair is styled.
Fair.
What
Sometimes
size
you
you
gotta try
have
to put the pony through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a whole
The
thing.
braids, yeah.
And I'm assuming you guys did talk about this weird new thing where when you wear the invisibility cap, you're suddenly itchy all over. Like,
And the fact
where
that
did that
Percy
come
has
from?
worn the hat before and didn't talk about this.
All of Titan's curse. Like,
One of our listeners talked to me this weekend. One of our listeners who is also someone I know in real life.
I was like, Carter, you are not running the social media. I was like, who?
I do not run the social media. Somebody was talking to me in real life about the episodes, and they were like, I think that you need to be a little bit careful because when Rick does a callback to a moment that is not that easy to remember, you all are like, wow, that was really emotionally impactful. I felt that. That was a thoughtful inclusion. And then when he does something like potentially forgets about the large stretches of the Titan's Curse where Percy was wearing the hat, you both are like, oh, that's a little awkward. That's fine. It doesn't change the emotional truth of the story and doesn't invalidate all the other times that we are like emotionally very moved by Rick remembering things that he himself wrote and edited and promoted and is now adapting.
Wait, what was your friend trying to say about that?
They were saying you're being a little hypocritical. They're saying like you can't live for Rick when he remembers things if he doesn't always remember things, and you don't care when he doesn't remember things.
so
I
we're
don't
making a
care when
much
he
bigger
doesn't.
deal over the cute little callbacks.
We're saying enchiladas, that's really funny, but also like Rick not remembering how like it was really like I feel like it was really meaningful and emotional and relevant to the course of the book that Percy spent like huge spans of time wearing Annabeth's invisibility hat in the Titan's Curse, and we're just kind of being like, maybe he just didn't notice. Maybe he forgot.
Yeah, I think he probably didn't
it
notice.
super bothers me, but I was gonna calm down a little bit since this isn't my podcast. But and again, I thought you guys had already talked about it in previous chat. If you haven't,
We did talk about it on the last episode.
Okay.
But I think like specifically this person was like, oh, like you like downplayed that a lot. And I thought that was really interesting.
Wait, this person wants us to be more critical of Rick? Oh my god.
So I had to like pause a little bit and be like, I think they did gag me a bit. And then I had to pause and be like, wait, actually, no. I unfortunately think that you're just not correct in the emotional meaning of Rick remembering a moment that the two of them shared in the first books is actually really meaningful, and Percy forgetting something about the sensation of the invisibility hat is not actually that emotionally meaningful.
Also, to quote something Mark said on our Mark Oshiro said on our podcast, like one of the great things about Rick's books is Rick is unafraid to challenge his own mythology and to change things even when it may contradict or like edit the lore. So if we want to go back and come up with any number of reasons why Percy didn't comment on the itchy sensation previously, I'm happy to do that and to headcanon some things. Maybe 13-year-old boys are always itchy, and so he didn't notice a difference.
Growing pain, maybe.
They don't wear deodorant.
They were in the woods lots. Maybe he just had poison ivy the entire book.
Literally,
Yes.
Maybe it was that. Maybe he was like, ooh, Uku's at school today. I don't know.
Also, I don't remember where I heard
Got
this.
lice.
It was probably while I was editing Mike's podcast, but it might have been the episode with Stephanie Laurie. I don't know, but it was like you don't get a second draft of a book. So like this is Rick's chance to like add in lore, and it's fun.
100%.
Absolutely.
It is for the best for everyone, including us and including Rick, that we're not trying to approach this like, what is a good analogy? Like Star Wars or something, where like we were supposed to be locked into a very specific continuity. We're not doing that. It's mythology.
Yeah.
It's mythology. The whole point
Is that it
The
changes?
timeline's already messed up.
Exactly. How old are they?
16, 17, 18, 17.
One of my favorite things is that if you are keeping track of the years with the books,
Yes.
iPads didn't exist in The Lost Hero when Melly has her little iPad checking them in.
That's fun.
iPads did not exist yet.
So
I
Rick
love it.
predicted
Wow.
the iPad.
He did.
And in
he
canon,
did.
that was a year ago.
Wow. I'm still a little bit gagged that someone in real life told you to be more critical on your podcast, and I think it's like no one has ever said that to us before, so I'm gagged.
I think it's important to find people in your life who will tell you you could be more of a hater.
That's Carter for me.
People will tell you that you can, but you can.
Carter
and you can
tells
find
me
a
that
way.
every day. Moving on. Percy getting back on the F train. He has to go to school. Some observations about the way alternative high school looks. And then we get this scene where he's talking to the school secretary, and Rick, as the teacher that he is, has to shout out school secretaries and say, school secretaries really do know everything. Shout out to our friend Sammy's mom, who was the middle school secretary for our school.
Literally knew everything. It's
Everything.
so true.
And everyone.
Yes. Everyone, all their parents, all your siblings.
All their tea.
What grades you're getting. Yeah.
Do you think secretaries just like flip through the yearbook and like memorize kids' names and faces?
I feel like they flip through the yearbook and they spill tea on everyone they see. You know?
Oh my gosh, yes.
And then
Anyway,
we have this Poseidon phone call. We get to school, we find out that Poseidon called ahead to say Percy would be coming in late. And this was such an interesting choice that Percy himself remarks on. He was like, my dad has not showed up for me in situations far worse than this one.
Do you want to read it?
Yeah. This is page 329 in Carter's ebook. You know, he said, sometimes it's the smallest waves that knock you off your feet. Tsunamis. Everybody knows they're powerful. Tidal waves, big and impressive. But those small waves, they hold a lot of power. They prove what the ocean is capable of, even when no one is paying attention. Margaret slid a hall pass across the counter. She smiled as if to say, this is all very nice and your dad sounds great, but I need my phone back now. Okay, Dad, I said. I understand. In fact, I had no idea what he was talking about. I've always kept an eye on you, Percy, he said. Mostly from a distance, it's true. I've watched you save the world multiple times, conquering enemies that would scare most immortals, but it wasn't until today that I realized how much of a hero you truly are. A lump formed in my throat. Because I dared to go to brunch? Poseidon chuckled. No, that was just foolhardy. You'd never catch me at one of Zeus's brunches. I mean, when you accepted Garrus's challenge. You could have walked away, left Ganymede to his fate, probably even gotten Garrus to write you a recommendation letter instead. The way Poseidon spelled out what I'd been thinking at the time, I wondered if he could read my mind. Or maybe he just understood me the way he understood the ocean's moods. Like the sea, I was part of him. Instead, he continued, you honored your promise. You risked your life for a cupbearer you barely knew, not for a letter, not because the fate of the world was at stake, but because that's just who you are. Today, you created a small wave, and you showed what the ocean is capable of. My eyes were getting watery. If I wasn't careful, I was going to start a saltwater flood right here in the office. I want to hear everybody's thoughts on that passage and the inclusion of this phone call in this book.
He kind of had me in the first half where I was like, oh yeah, today I realized how much of a hero you are. Like after everything else that has happened, today is when you start to pay attention. But then the second half, it was really nice. It was more of just like, he's just a good guy and that like heroes can do small things as well. And it's not just about, are you going to save the world?
Girlfriend.
Yeah, that's what makes him a hero, adjusting the hat. Yeah, but that it is about the little things as well and how all of that can build up to bigger things. So I thought that was a nice thing to have, like, you can change little things around you every day. Like, it's not just one big action. So I think that's like a nice lesson almost to take away from it too.
Yeah, I feel like Poseidon is just telling Percy, like, I see you, like, all the small things. I know who you are. And if there's one thing you are, it's loyal.
I find maybe one of the most interesting parts of this passage to be the ocean, I am a part of him. I felt like that was a lot for Percy to say because he doesn't really like to identify with his dad.
Yeah.
And so to say like, my dad inherently understands me because we are inherently similar in personality and the way that we see the world, that felt like a big moment of growth to me.
I think that there is a way in which this passage is much more classical for the middle grade fantasy genre than a lot of other ways that Rick has chosen historically to wrap up the books, where Poseidon here is just being correct.
Yeah, he's like saying the right thing.
He is saying things that we, the reader, and Rick, the author, agrees with, and he is emotionally hitting all the points that he's supposed to hit. And I don't think that that's really happened that much before. And I honestly don't know how I feel about it as a departure. Like, it feels good to hear him say these things, but I am also like, when Percy said that thing about like being a part of Poseidon, I was like, that is kind of mature in a way, but I don't know. Like, I don't know if, like, I don't trust Poseidon that much. And when he is correct for this many pages in a row, I'm like, okay.
Yeah. What do you want from him? Yeah, like, what is your ulterior motive
What's
in
the
saying
catch?
these nice things?
When is it going to stop? And when are we going to hear something else that I don't like now? You know, like,
maybe this is part of like the getting older theme of the book, that like the older you get, the more you can start to empathize with your parent that may be a not so great parent all the time, and recognize like, oh, maybe there is something kind of inherent that they understand about me that I understand about them. And that doesn't, excuse the way that they've treated me in the past. But now that I'm getting older, I'm in a better place to accept some of their advice and to see myself in them.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
I feel like it also makes sense with kind of how Ganymede chose Percy for the quest, knowing that he wouldn't be tempted to drink from it. It's kind of like similar in that vein where it's like there's a more inherent understanding of who Percy is and not like Poseidon trying to make Percy who he wants him to be.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really nice.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go to chapter 33, One More Jolly Rancher for Old Time's Sake. Carter, you really liked the imagery in this chapter, right? With the last blue Jolly Rancher. You mentioned it like a couple weeks ago.
I know. Yeah, I got confused. But I do like the imagery. I think Jolly Ranchers are a good choice because they feel like school, but they also feel outdated. Does that make sense?
Like
the image,
timeless? Outdated or like vintage outdated?
Like vintage outdated. Like the image of a single Jolly Rancher in a jar. I feel like the image that they're presenting, the single small child blue chair, the single blue Jolly Rancher in the jar, it is giving, you are old. Things are progressing. You are noticing changes, and you are in a place that is growing to become too small and too old for the things that you were trying to accomplish and the place that you are in your life.
Yeah. We go to the guidance counselor's office from the secretary, phone call. And we have to have one last check-in with Eudora. We have to check in with Sicky Frog on the wall, which is one of my favorite parts of this book. That little description. In this chapter, I think he's like, I'm pretty sure Sicky Frog is sentient now. That is so funny. Oh my God. It was very funny to me. Yeah. I feel like I've had this exact experience of like, I saw the same pediatrician from the time I was 0 to 23, and they have the same like photos and like little art on the wall ever from my time I was 0 to 23, and I definitely created emotional relationships with like the different teddy bears on the wall in the different exam rooms, in the pediatrician. I felt like this was a very specific and striking description. Yeah, we have a little check-in here.
Yeah, the dynamics are very different. This is not giving chat with a wise old mentor who knows everything that's correct. This is giving she is still really afraid of Percy and the wreckage that he could unleash upon her career and livelihood at any moment.
As I would be too. This is like 99% of the people that exist in the Riordan verse are like women trying to go about their lives, terrified that Percy Jackson is going to come in and ruin their career.
Because of who his dad is.
Because of his dad. They talk about the paper.
Yeah, Eudora apparently is a stationary girly.
Yeah, she shops at Muji. Me too.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't think Eudora is adding that much value here, to be honest.
She's funny.
She's funny. She doesn't really get it. She's kind of scared. And she's like, I hope you had a good time. Did you learn something? And he's like, not really. I think I knew these things going in. And she was like, well.
Okay, I do want to ask, though, about that. So Carter, like you said, she asked, like, oh, did you learn anything? And he says, I think we both did. And she's like, what? He's like, oh, nothing. Like, what do you think he meant by that response of saying, I think we both did?
I don't know. I had the same question. I was like, what's the joke? I get that it's funny, but I don't think the joke landed on me. Where she says, I'm so glad to hear that. I think this experience would make a great subject for your personal essay on the application. Bravery, initiative, self-discovery. Yeah, I said, trying not to care about the fact that I would have to write yet another essay. I think we all learned an important lesson here today. Sorry? Forget it.
I think he's mad that she didn't tell him that he could ask multiple gods for
the lesson is be on top of your shit.
The lesson is explain the requirements to children.
Oh. Thank you for explaining the joke.
Well, I mean, she didn't learn the lesson, so like I think it was ambiguous.
Again, I am Eudora.
Yes.
And then we go to chapter 34, which is so cute. Oh my my God. We're back at the apartment. Oh,
Yeah, the
This is
entire
good.
chapter is basically a group writing of Percy's rec letter.
it's so cute. First, they have dinner. Annabeth comes over again. And then after dinner, they like all get into the living room and they try to write Percy's letter together by like narrating it out loud with the gag of that the words appear on the paper when you say them. And they're all laughing at him like the entire time. Like this event is completely at his expense because they're like making fun of him and like giving him a hard time. It's
Yes.
like I saw it. Like the way I pictured the scene in my head, because I feel like I saw it so vividly, was like I was looking like one of those shots at the end of the movie.
Where it pushes through the window.
Yes, Carter! Yes, almost like in the animated Peter Pan, where you start outside of the building and you see like their house is lit up and you know it's the holidays, so like there's maybe like a
Yes.
Christmas tree, and you start to slowly push in where you're seeing them, or even pull out where you're seeing them like laughing and hanging out and like giggling, and they almost look like silhouettes. And you're just seeing this like, the perfect image of this like perfect domestic moment in time that's like never going to be recreated.
It's comfortably
'cause Percy's
domestic.
going off.
It's the domestic Percabeth we've been begging for since 2001.
And by Percabeth, we mean Annabeth on the floor laughing with Sally and Paul at Percy's expense.
Yes.
I do love that before they start writing it, Percy's like, so Paul, if I just turned in this blank sheet of paper, but it's like a really nice sheet of paper, would you give me an A?
And he says, no, I'd still ask you to provide examples to prove your thesis.
It was such a self-insert moment.
Yes. I want to be a high school English teacher so bad. One day, like truly, that's my final form. I'm really looking forward to that. I don't know when it's going to happen, but
also,
You
it's
could
so
do like a
like the
Seaweed Brain
gods
essay
to give a blank
competition.
sheet of paper.
Yes, 100%. I mean, this is what I think how would I put this? Like, not to shade anyone. I don't think anyone I know personally has ever done this, but like, there were some teachers who were like really, really busy and they liked you, but
they're like, write your own recommendation letter. I'll just sign it.
Yes. Yes. Which is like a sign of respect and that they trust you, but also like, I think that that's rude. For me personally, if somebody were to ever ask me in my career for a recommendation letter, I'm writing it.
I feel like it's such a huge compliment to you to be asked to write a recommendation letter, because it means the person asking you values you so highly and feels that you have a special relationship. Like I asked someone to be a reference for me for a job, and she was like, oh my God, no one's ever asked me before. Like, thank you so much. That's so exciting. That means so much to me.
Aww.
So, yeah.
Sherry, do you remember who wrote your college recommendation letter?
Yes. I asked for 3. I got my history teacher because he was my absolute favorite. Shout out Mr. Wagner. I at one point wanted to become a high school history teacher because I loved his class so much.
Aww.
And then I asked my math teacher, who was also the like head of NHS or whatever, and I was like on the council, and she was like really honored because like she was kind of like known to be strict, so like people didn't like asking her because they were like, oh my gosh, she's gonna write a horrible one. She was like, I will write you like the best letter ever. And I also asked my English teacher in 11th grade.
Listener of Seaweed Brain, Mr. Wagner, Sherry's high school history teacher, shout out to you.
Also, so your listeners don't kill me. I realized I said the wrong year for when The Lightning Thief came out. It very much was not 2001, and I just want people to know that I know that.
I didn't even pick up on that, so you're fine. I don't have any memory.
Oh my God. At the 92 NY event 2 days ago, yesterday, the people I was sitting next to, I think they were probably like high school. They were like, oh my God, this book came out so long ago. I think the first book came out in 2010. And like, I didn't want to correct them because they looked like high schoolers. And I was like, they're going to be shook when they open Wikipedia and see it's 2004. They were like, 2004?
There
have been whole children born since these books were written.
The books.
They were gagged. They were like, there must be people in this audience that were born after the movie came out.
Oh my God.
When we were having conversations about like the TV adaptations, one of the things that we kept talking about was like, there are now, like, it's not just that there are multiple versions of the Percy Jackson stories. There are different
generations.
There are different generations of people coming to the story, and there are generationally separated tellings of the story. Like, this TV show is going to be a whole, arguably, generation after the books. They were taking a fresh look at the material. It's wild.
Well, there are people that may watch the show and have never read the books. They're like, "Oh, this is some cool new thing on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Let's check it out." Like I
Mhm.
watched the movie before I ever read the books. Fun fact.
That's okay. That's okay. That happened to many people
There was
our age.
a really cute girl on the bus that was reading the books, and I thought,
Aw.
this movie is out. Let me go watch this movie. We could talk about it. And then I loved the movie.
Cute
and then I
girls
read the
love
books.
Percy Jackson.
I know,
So
right?
true.
I know. Shout out to that cute girl on the bus for changing my life. Thank you.
I've never met a cute girl who doesn't love Percy Jackson, and I've never met someone who loves Percy Jackson who isn't a cute girl. So
Period.
there you
So
go.
true.
Other people know.
I will also say about the 92 NY event, since we were there last night, 24 hours ago. Speaking of this generational thing, there was a question and answer that was like, somebody asked, where is your favorite place to find magic? Asking as a newly minted big kid. And I felt like the air go out of the room for a second, and everybody like took like an inhale, and there was like a silent like, oh, and everyone was like, oh my God, so many of us are old here. Like, I just felt in that moment like the entire room be like, wow, some of us are old, and this is a very different experience for us than it is for like the little kids who are here. And Rick's answer was public libraries.
Oh,
Yeah. Also, I saw the cutest group of like maybe 10-year-old boys all like lined up with their books, taking a picture in like front of the stage. It was the cutest thing. I was like, I didn't know children this small read this book.
Oh,
I mean, weren't we this small reading these books?
yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
I guess.
I was at a restaurant right before the event, and I was in my camp shirt, and there was like a table of like people who looked like they were maybe 14 or 15, and they were like, I love your shirt. And I was like, oh my God, hi. We had a conversation, and I like saw like baby Carter and Erica like at this little restaurant in their gaggle of friends. They were so precious. Oh my God. It's like young people. Anyway, multiple generational stories. I don't know how we got on that tangent, but we're writing the letter.
We're writing the letter. Dave Brubeck's quartet is playing in the background. I only mention this because we've picked up every music reference that they've put in. This is the only one I think we've had so far that I co-sign.
We love Dave Brubeck.
We love Dave Brubeck.
That's probably why I thought Christmas tree. I don't know. Jazz, holidays.
Jazz, holidays.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Disney tie-in. Shout out to that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Should we read any of this?
I don't know. It's all so funny.
It's all really funny. Treat yourself. Reread the scene. Read the scene.
Mm-hmm.
I highly recommend Percy Jackson for New Rome University. He's adorable and has nice eyes.
Oh my God. When Annabeth is nice, doesn't it just gag you? Like it's
like
so
almost scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
It's
just
like,
such a-
what's about to happen?
No, I'm like, girl, look at you being
know what I mean?
vulnerable. Like Piper taught you something. Yeah. And not to say that she doesn't say nice, cute things before she meets Piper, but like, that's what I think. I think that Piper showed her a lot about her. Well, I know the whole point of the books is that like Percy teaches her about her humanity, and we talked about that recently, but really I think Piper teaches her about her emotional vulnerability.
Well, I feel like so much also of Percy and Annabeth's like relationship happened outside of the books. Like the whole 6 months from when they started dating to when Lost Hero starts, we don't get to see any of that. Like there's so much of their actual relationship where they would have those cute moments that we just aren't allowed to see because we only get to see the trauma-inducing moments.
Wow, is it really 6 months of time we don't have?
It's like from August until like October, November or something that he disappears.
Wow.
No, it was over
in
winter.
December, we like see them and he's already gone, right?
Yeah.
Wow. That's a lot of book material right there. That's a lot of gray space in the history, the lore that we could write books about. Anyway, the letter is written. We sign it. Everybody has sparkling water. Paul cheers his wine glass and he says, to Percy, our own family hero. Oh, I love life. This book made me love life. You know, it made me appreciate the little things.
Yeah, all the little moments where he's just like staring out at the city, just like little pockets of vignettes. So cute.
Yeah, you just moved to New York, Sherry. Do you want to speak on that section where Percy talks about looking into the windows and how he loves seeing everybody go about their little lives in New York City and how special that is?
Yeah, as a nosy person, I do love looking into people's windows to see what they're doing. But also this reminds me of that like one segment in The Great Gatsby where who's it, Nick? He's just like staring into the windows, and like that was one of like my favorite books in high school that we had to read. And I think that's like what first made me want to move to New York, just like being able to like look into people's windows and be like, huh, that's so nice how they're living life.
Are you referring to the section when like Nick goes to the city for the first time in the book and like has like maybe a bisexual awakening moment?
Was it? I don't remember the book that well anymore.
I think scholars have argued about this for generations, actually.
Okay.
I mean, Saltburn in theaters now. In case you were wondering, what would it be like if they leaned a little bit more into the canonical bisexuality of Nick Carraway?
Also, The Chosen and the Beautiful, an incredible retelling of Great Gatsby. I highly recommend. Lochlyn, where would you like to go back to?
Oh, yes. For those with the Barnes & Noble copy, page 260.
Not you shading us like that.
Yeah, with my little extra bits at the end, even though they didn't give me a sticker, and I'm still salty about that. Anyway, the part where Sally says to Paul that she has a smart kid, and Paul's like, yes, you do. I think he gets that from your side. And then Percy's like, it's one thing to be called the son of Poseidon, but getting noticed for being anything like my mom, that's a compliment. Which just, we love Sally Jackson praise. Any second we can get it.
Absolutely. And this is something I am looking forward to being expounded upon in coming iterations. Yeah. And
Sally is the best mom, period.
I just also thought the placement of it was interesting, coming just after Percy's call with Poseidon, where he's sort of talking about their similarities, like sort of alluding to it, like then we expounded upon it more. But I just find these two moments where he's like, yeah, we're kind of similar, but also like, I'd rather be compared to my mom still. Like,
exactly.
Yes.
Because that's what sets Percy apart. Like, that's his whole thing, is that he is more Sally's son than he is Poseidon's. Yeah. And that's why he turns
more
down immortality. He's more mortal, and that's what makes him special. Also, quick shout out to Rick's roasting of Goodreads, where we talk about Sally getting a 1-star review for her book, even though it's not out yet. Apparently, the reviewer didn't like that the title "Love Songs of the Gods" promoted paganism.
That feels like a personal attack.
That is a lovely detail. Shout out to you, Rick, for letting the people know that you do not care what they think about your maybe paganism.
Who hurt you, Rick, when you released The Lightning Thief?
It's a very specific dig at Goodreads, specifically the online platform owned by Amazon, because then Percy goes on to say, I offered to talk to Hilla, queen of the Amazons and fearsome monarch of online retailing, about removing the review, but my mom said there was no need. And I feel like if you talk to any author, they would be like, yeah, Goodreads has ruined an already very toxic industry. So
there's a very lovely conversation about this it's only the podcast that ended like a month and a half ago.
Into it.
I feel terrible. I did listen to every episode.
It was my top podcast next to Pop Culture Happy Hour this year.
Wow.
Rest in peace, Into It.
Sam Sanders had a lovely episode that was just about the effect of Goodreads and online reviewing culture.
We'll link that in our show notes. Also, you can read Yellowface by Rebecca Kwang if you want a satire about how terrible the Goodreads culture is.
Also, I just love that Rick has headcanon that the queen of the Amazons, like the people, is also the head of Amazon, the corporation.
He did that. He really did. He said, let me take away Jeff Bezos' accomplishments.
We love female CEOs.
Yeah. Yes. And then we have pretty much the best goodnight kiss ever, I have to say. The fact that we get Annabeth coming over for dinner and we have this big, beautiful in-person family scene, and then Annabeth goes home, and then we get to come back to their bedtime phone call. This is the most like high school, like adorableness I could even imagine, that like they'd start talking to each other and he's like, yeah, I mean, we just saw each other, but somehow when she smiles at me over FaceTime, it's different because it's like, it's intimate. It's just us. And like, oh my God, it's so cute. They talk about their days. He talks about his interaction with Athena, right?
It's Athena and Barbara. Athena, obviously, for sparing Percy, and Barbara, because she's Annabeth's fangirl, who you may remember, only helped Percy on the condition that she get a signed photograph.
And I love how that's not surprising to Annabeth. Like, clearly this is not the first time someone has wanted her autograph.
Yeah, she says she was delighted to hear about Barbara's request for a selfie and an autograph. And she says, of course, happy to.
I like that Annabeth has now become more famous in the PJO world than Percy.
Yes. She literally does, at least to the people who live on Mount Olympus.
She's
that
an
would make
architect.
sense.
Yeah, but Percy says, I was a little surprised by how unsurprised she sounded.
Maybe she got these requests all the time and just didn't talk about them.
Yeah.
Probably.
Like, she didn't want to like make him feel sad that she was becoming more popular. Like, she's like, yeah, like you're a pretty like progressive guy, but also I don't want to hurt your ego. So like we're just gonna tone it down a little bit.
Also, that like people ask for Annabeth's autograph, but people ask Percy to do things for them. That's
Yes.
They occupy different spaces culturally. The gods.
They really do.
And then, of course, we have to talk about the Yankees cap and the itchiness. And Annabeth has to follow in the great footsteps of Rumpelstiltskin and tell Percy, all power comes with a price. Yeah, I do, because I do think Annabeth loves Once Upon a Time.
You think Annabeth was like Robert Carlyle?
Was my childhood crush? Yes, I do. Robert Carlyle did eat. Everyone know that to be true. Speaking of your mom, I told her what had happened at the brunch when Athena locked eyes with me under the table. Annabeth's expression was difficult to read. Iris messages were always a little hazy, but she looked like she was trying to sew my words together in her mind to make a coherent story out of them. Wow, she said at last. Yeah, she helped you. I guess she didn't kill me anyway. You know what this means? She stretched her hand toward me. Her fingers dispersed into water and light as they hit the Iris message, but I reached toward her anyway. When the image reformed, it looked as if our hands had merged, fused together at our lifelines. Annabeth was smiling again. My mom gets it, Annabeth said. It's weird that she didn't before, seeing as she's usually so far ahead of everyone else, but I guess this isn't a battlefield. Sorry, she gets what? She laughed. How serious I am about you, Seaweed Brain. My chest tightened, but it wasn't an unpleasant feeling. More like a snug, woolly sweater being wrapped around me. So you think she helped me for your sake? As I said it, I realized it made a lot of sense. At least way more sense than Athena helping me for any other reason. She knows I'm going to see this through, Annabeth said. I'm going to make sure we both get to adulthood and have a chance to settle down, hopefully after having a lot of fun when we're in college. You had me at fun, I said. Actually, you had me at the whole thing. I told her what I had thought about while I wrestled Garrus, how I decided to hug it out with old age because any future that had us in it was a future I wanted to live through. Oh my gods. Annabeth brushed away a tear. You know, sometimes you can be so sweet. Only sometimes? Let's stay focused, shall we? Oh my god.
Reading that
So
felt like
cute.
being wrapped up in a woolly sweater.
Yes, I agree.
Yes. Have you guys seen Elemental, the like new Pixar movie?
Yes.
We have seen it.
Yes.
The it reminds me, yeah, when their like hands touch for the first time and they like change each other's chemistry.
That this image was very cute. I can't believe Percy's little, he's so poetic, you know? He said, and then it looked like our hands fused into, wow.
At our lifelines.
At our lifelines. Oh, God. It's so precious and meaningful, and they've been through so much together.
He's come a long way from hummus.
What a callback.
He's come a long way from I don't trust everybody else doing this, and I have to go and take the invisibility cap and take matters into my own hands. And also Annabeth, like we were just saying, like when she's nice, it's like freaky. Like she just shed a tear. Like that's big. Mm-hmm. She said, my heart is open and I am vulnerable and I love you. And that takes a lot for her, I think, to do. And you love to see it. Thank you, Piper, for bringing our girl to this point here today.
It's also just such a beautiful moment of them reflecting on like, we've lived through some insane stuff, but we're so close to this beautiful thing that we'll get to have together, and that makes all of this stuff worth it because like we helped each other through it.
Yeah.
I think in the name of Percabeth, I'm going to read the very last few lines, and then we're going to ask you guys a couple questions.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's stay focused, shall we? You still have 2 more letters of recommendation to get before winter break. That means 2 more quests for the gods. Easy queasy. You mean peasy. No, I'm pretty sure it makes me queasy. But we'll make it, right? I mean, even if your mom is on our side, if even your mom is on our side, I wouldn't press too hard on that point, but it's a good sign. And yes, we'll make it. Hey, Percy? Yeah. I hate to break it to you, but I think I might love you. Ah, crud, I was afraid of that. I love you too. Finish your homework. Good night. Good night, wise girl. And as we always did, we rolled toward each other, breaking the iris message as we came together. But in the mist and the last flecks of light, I thought I could smell her presence and feel the warmth of her hug. Honestly, that was enough to make me believe anything was possible. Except homework. I fell asleep almost immediately, and for once, I had pleasant dreams.
This just made me realize Percy Jackson and Annabeth Chase are the definition of black cat girlfriend and golden retriever boyfriend.
Correct. They invented that. I'm sorry, they roll towards one another. Like this little, I feel like we're witnessing like the ritual with the hand thing and the rolling. Like this is their routine, and
it's different. It's another mode of communication for them that sets itself apart from instances where, like, I really enjoy reading them have to navigate a relationship together amidst specific conflict and challenges. But it is also nice to juxtapose that against them just having a conversation and using literally like different language that clearly is kind of still new and uncomfortable and not as tidy and worked out as the language that they, as like narrators and just like characters having dialogue, have in most of the rest of the books. Like it feels
like they're a little awkward and cute around each other. Yeah.
It sounds like a first relationship.
Yeah.
With people who like know each other really well, but are still like in like they're like settled in the relationship, but I think they're still like not. Do you know what I mean?
It's new. I mean, they've only been dating for
it's been like a year.
A year at this point?
Well, but then he's like missing for a large chunk of,
Yeah. It's been a short period of time, and this is like their first relationship, and all of that is still true, even though they did also go through Tartarus together. Like,
I think you would imagine them still like figuring out what it means for them to communicate their affection for each other in domesticity and times of peace and comfort beyond the existing friendship that they've had for years. And I think watching them get to that point is really rewarding.
Yes.
Even though some haters might be like, they sound like 16-year-olds in their first relationship. Because they are.
They are! I guess 17. But yeah.
Also, like, before their relationship was colored a lot by trauma that they shared. And now they just get to, like, coexist and, like, live life. Even though, you know, there's still the quest. But, like, it's much lower stakes than if you don't win, we all die.
Yeah.
But they also get to go home at the end of the day with these quests as well. Like they're little, almost like mini side quests compared to what we've dealt with before. Like they both get to go home. They're also going to school, even though school sucks. It's better than fighting monsters. And again, like what we said earlier with the timeline, like they only had 4 months to start dating, and then Percy was gone for 6, and then the world almost ended. So this is the first consistent amount of time that they've had together where they're in the same place, because she's in New York, he's in New York, whereas previously they've been across the country from each other. So they actually get time together outside of being demigods and just get to figure out what it's like to date and be with somebody you really care about. And it's just beautiful and adorable.
They just get to be people for once.
Yeah. To have to experience what it's like to have trauma bonded by falling asleep in hell together and then have to be like, oh, we need to FaceTime before we go to bed. Let's figure out the logistics of that. Let's create a routine so that we both can like express our feelings before we go to bed and roll into each other. So that being said, Lochlyn and Sherry, do you believe Percabeth is the greatest love story ever told?
Yes.
I wasn't sure who was going to go first.
Woo!
We're getting so spoiled these days. It really
we need to bring on a hater.
People fought us a lot in like the first few seasons.
Yeah, they really tried to be like, well, that's a big question, and like, let's really break that down.
Okay, but like Percy and Annabeth's relationship is like what I aspire to. Like, do I want a Percy? Do I want an Annabeth? Who fucking
real?
Like,
Yeah, you can swear here. You can swear here.
Okay. I don't know if I like want to be. I don't know what I was saying, but you know, who fucking cares? They're perfect for each other, and also I identify so strongly with both of them. I'm like, can I just be both of you at once? And find someone that's also both of you at once?
Can I be like really mushy gushy for a second? Following up on
yes,
because it's like
place.
looking at like reading this whole bit, it reminds me so much of me and my partner, and like we've known each other for 10 years. We weren't allowed to date while we were in high school. We like kind of fell apart from each other in college, and they got back together a year ago, and I moved down to like his city to be with him while he finishes school, and then like we're talking about like where we're gonna move together long term. So it feels like we finally got to this point that they're at right now, where it's like we got through all the insanity, all of the obstacles against us, and now we just get this little moment of like we adopted a kitten together, and like so we're just sitting on the couch like playing with her, and then my other cat is off in the corner, and he just said like, I just love our little family. I'm like, and that just, it has the same like cozy feeling of this. So it just
Lochlyn,
so I was just reading rereading this and
you.
just like, this is it. I get what they're feeling because it's what I'm feeling, and it's really cute.
Oh my gosh,
I'm
that's
living
so
through
special.
Percy and Annabeth.
Say it with me, everyone. Lord, I see what you have given to others. But in all seriousness, that's very special, and thank you for sharing that with us,
Yes.
Lochlyn.
And
Maybe
then
we all
I do
feel
have
aspirational.
and I do have one gripe. This chapter is called like the pretty much the best goodnight kiss ever. Where's the kiss? Where is it? Where is it?
That's funny.
Is it supposed
That's
to be them like
pretty
rolling towards
I
each
think as they
other?
roll into each other, it's like a version.
That's a really
That's a
funny.
stretch.
But all he says is
Like
he
an air
feels the
kiss,
hug.
maybe?
He says he
Yeah.
feels the hug, not like he can like feel himself kissing.
I
Where's
got
the
it.
kiss?
Rick got really caught up in the whole like, and for once I didn't look back, and it was pretty much the best underwater kiss of all time and it was pretty much the best goodnight kiss of all time, and for once I didn't have bad dreams. He was like, I nailed it. Like, that is how we have to end the book. And then
He
he
thought he
forgot.
ate that. And then he forgot to say it.
He's like, it was implied.
I think it was. It was.
Yeah, I think it.
Literally, I did
wasn't.
not
No,
notice
it
until you
wasn't.
just said that. And we read the chapter of this. We read the title of the chapter like several times.
That's funny.
I noticed it the first time I read it, and I looked at it, I'm like, wait.
wait.
Like, yes, all that was adorable. Yes, all the little personal connections, but also, where was it? Rick? Richard?
Richard. Oh. Any final thoughts? Anything anyone wants to get out there before we close off here tonight?
I missed it. I missed the trio. I missed the first person Percy, and I'm just happy to have it again in my life.
1 week.
I love a nostalgia trap, and this was a very good, satisfactory nostalgia trap.
Yes.
All right, y'all. I literally have been doing nothing but Percy Jackson. It feels like lately, no sleep, no eat, no water, only Percy Jackson. And that's because in 1 week from this episode premiering, December 20th, we're gonna start the Disney Plus show,
And we're going to start it
Oh my god.
with a live stream.
yeah, we are. So, Disney has been known to change release times lately, so we're going to keep an eye on that. But assuming they do stick with a midnight PST or 12 a.m. Wednesday morning, we will be streaming at exactly that time on YouTube, watching the episode at home with a bunch of our friends. I'll make sure that link is in our show notes. If you don't have anybody watch the show with and you want to come join us, please do. And then we will be that Wednesday, discussion and analysis deep dive on the first episode will be out. The following Friday, we'll have episode 2 with a special guest, and then the pattern will be Wednesday evenings Eastern time, live watch-alongs on Patreon, Friday mornings analysis episode drops available to everybody.
Yes.
If anyone has questions about that, feel free to message me. I know it's confusing. There's a lot of content coming out right now.
And just to clarify, this first watch along for the premiere is not on Patreon.
It's on YouTube.
It's going to be a YouTube
Come
link.
hang out. It's free.
Specifically, we were having conversations about how we thought that for the premiere in particular, we wanted to offer people who maybe are like also elderly like us and don't have necessarily a ton of people in your real life to watch the show with an opportunity to watch it with people.
Yeah.
Specifically us.
Yeah, and our friends who will be
Our friends who are forced to go.
certain to say unhinged things, I'm sure. So make sure you stick around. Make sure you follow us on social medias, because I know there are people who follow us on Spotify who don't follow us on social media. So at Seaweed Brain Podcast, Instagram, at Seaweed Brain Pod on Twitter. And we will see you guys tomorrow. We're also releasing an episode tomorrow, Thursday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern time. They changed it. The embargo is going to lift, and we are going to be releasing an episode about all of the tea we heard in several press junkets this week. I'm talking the showrunners, the cast, the VFX designer, the set design, the Dan Henna, the production designer, the costume designer. I'm talking Rick and Becky, answering whether Percabeth is the greatest love story ever told. So make sure you tune in tomorrow. I will literally not be sleeping Wednesday evening, December 13th. There's a lot of exciting stuff going on. Okay, I think that's it. We will see you guys there.
Yes, bye all.
Thank you guys for joining us.